Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Chanel with Java Devotions. And today's devotion is a testimony on the goodness of God, the abundance of God, and how He answers prayer. So grab a cup of coffee, Java, juice, whatever, because this is going to be an absolutely amazing story. And please, I'm not that great with video editing, but I'm definitely gonna try to link some pictures so you guys can kind of get an idea at the end of the video of the house and the repairs that the Lord did. So please hang out and you'll be able to take a look. So with that being said, this year, 2021, has been a year of abundance for me. And if you don't know me personally, and I may have alluded to it a couple times in previous videos, but I don't think I really said how hard my walk has been in the past 2 or I will say maybe 3 years. 2018, 21. Yeah, I will say the 3 years my walk has been walking with the Lord, learning to depend on Him, the humbling I went through. I don't think I really conveyed everything that I went through, but let's just say it was rough. It was, uh, it was rough from having my husband, my ex-husband now leave and navigating losing my job and my income and my house going into foreclosure and everything else. Through it all, the Lord has been faithful. Even when I wanted to give up from everything that was happening, it very much felt like a season similar to what Job went through. I mean, I didn't lose my kids, thank you, Jesus, but the loss of material things and my pride and my validation, my self-worth, everything kind of like went out the window during those past 3 years. So at the end of last year, I found myself in a situation where I couldn't get my children Christmas gifts. Is that the end of the world? No, but is it something that most parents would like to be able to do for their kids? Yes. I was in that situation. And I remember it was right before New Year's Eve, and my children handled it with amazing grace. They have seen the Lord provide for them for Christmas before during those really tough years, but for whatever reason, this particular year, He came through, but not as much as He did before. And my children were disappointed, but the way they handled it was amazing. They made a conscious decision that they were not going to complain. And instead, they were going to thank the Lord for the gifts that they did get, even if it was socks and underwear. And they will just look forward in the future because He provided for their needs before. So whatever reason He didn't answer the prayers this time, it was okay. I remember my daughter Soraya said, He's answered so many other prayers, like for her cat and everything else, that she doesn't know why He didn't do this one, but it's okay. It's all right. She will keep trusting Him anyway. And so I remember after she said that, I kind of have like a personal heart-to-heart with God. And at the time, I didn't have a 9-to-5 job. I was trying to sell insurance on the side, and I couldn't, for the life of me, get people to buy or clients or anything like that. And I remember I said to the Lord, I was like, God, my children know what it's like for You to be a provider. Me and the children know what it's like for You to be a provider. We seen You come through for us. We seen You meet our needs. You kept the roof over our head. You provided food when I didn't have a means of getting food. You provided all those things. And I remember saying to them, I was like, and I read the kids the stories of You and how You are a God of abundance and how You bless people and everything like that. I was like, Lord, we don't have a living experience of that side of your character. My children have no idea what your abundance looks like. And we know your provision and we know your abundance is there. But to have an experience of it, of living in abundance and walking into that, we don't know what that looks like. And I was like, and Lord, if you could show us that side of your character, show us that side of the faith, I will be eternally grateful. Because as you know, Lord, you tried us, and my children have not complained. I have not complained even when we had to walk everywhere and depend on charity. We did not complain. We made it a point that we will still be thankful and praise you in all things. I was like, I would like them to know that you are a God of abundance as well. And I said that prayer in December of last year. It will take a very long time for me to tell you of all the things he has done for us in 2021. But I'm going to pick out one particular example. And it just recently happened. And it was such a big thing that I even made the local newspaper and my city government's website of what the Lord did for me and my family. And I'm also going to try to post a link to the news story as well, because it's quite amazing. So I was outside in my front porch. I live in the South. I have a very big front porch. It's beautiful. I live in a very old house. It's like 102 years old. And this year in particular, I knew I needed a new front porch. And I had priced it out earlier in the summer, but during that time, lumber prices were like insane, incredibly high. And the price I got was just like, there's no way I can afford this at all. So I just kind of like put it on the back burner. But I was outside dealing on my front porch. And the reason I was on my front porch, because I had these bushes that are right in front of the front porch. And they tend to get overgrown because I hate hedging or trimming bushes. But these bushes have caught powdery mildew year after year after year. And they have gotten to the roots. And the spores spread out throughout my entire garden. So a lot of things were getting affected because of these diseased bushes. And I remember out there trying to apply more treatments to try to kill the fungus. And it was like I could get absolutely no headway. So I was feeling frustrated. And I remember, I don't even think I voiced it out loud, but I was feeling really frustrated because I'm dealing with these moldy bushes. It's the only way I could describe it. Moldy, overgrown bushes. And I was like, Lord, at this point, I would love just to get rid of these bushes, just to dig them up and get rid of it. I was like, my problem though, is if I dig up these bushes and get rid of them, then my front porch, which is in complete repair, there was portions of it. And when I bought the house, they had like this carpet, this weird carpeting over it. Because I guess it was a fix and flip, but they didn't fix everything. It was just a light fix and flip, whatever. But so they covered up the porch, and it was because the carpet kept moisture trapped in it, parts of it was rotting away. And I was like, my problem is that even if I get bushes removed, this porch is just ugly. It's ugly, it's rotting, it's in disrepair, and it will be open for the whole street to see. So I was like, I want to get rid of these bushes, but if I get rid of these bushes, I have this porch and I don't have money to fix the porch or to get rid of these bushes. So Lord, if there is any way possible for you to take care of it for me, I just ask that you take care of it for me. And I just left it at that. I think I went on my day, probably had to go to work, whatever the case, and I just left it at that. 2 weeks later, I get a mail from my city, a letter in the mail. I don't know if you can see this. says, "Dear homeowner," from the city of Salisbury. And this letter says, let me read it to you. "Congratulations, dear homeowner. Your block has been selected for this year's block work event to be held the weekend of October 23rd, 2021. Block work is a grassroots program developed, blah, 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 blah. And normally it helps to do some light cleanup from the neighborhood and all that good stuff. And typically, the city has a little bit of money to help take care of the block work, except this year, this is a special year because Salisbury's block work project won a Lowe's Home Improvement 100 Hometowns grant. If you would like any repairs done to your house, please contact us so we can schedule those repairs as soon as possible." I screamed. I probably did some twirls, probably screamed some more, held up the letters like, "Jesus, you see this?" I'm pretty sure I went like this. I was like, "Laura, you see this? Because I see this. Do you see this?" I'm pretty sure he saw it because he sent the letter and everything. But regardless, I called that number so fast. I probably called like 2 or 3 times until she finally got back to me. And Alyssa got back to me and she said, "Hey, because I left her several voicemails. She was like, "Do you know, we sent out the letter and you're the only homeowner to have called me and contacted me to say, I would like repairs done to my house." And I was like, "Oh, wow, I can't believe it." So she was like so excited because I actually contacted her and everything else. So this is what she told me, right? Normally, on a normal year, the city has like around $10,000 to spread out to do light repairs, light landscaping for all the houses on a particular block. Except this year, thanks to this grant, Lowe's chose Salisbury out of thousands of cities across the United States to receive a $100,000 grant. And that grant money has to be spent by the end of the month. And when she told me that, I was like, trust and believe, my house, I will help you spend that money. I will help you spend that money because there were so many things that had gone into disrepair that were broken that I just didn't have the money to get fixed. So she was like, "Tell you what, we're going to schedule a meeting and then you can tell me the things that you need done to the house and you can take a look and I'll let you know what we were able to do." I was like, "Cool beans." So she was like, "We'll schedule the meeting." She scheduled it on, I remember I had this particular day off. It was the day of my daughter's birthday. I was like, "Cool." So we scheduled a meeting for that particular day. Fast forward, let's say 3 weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, is my daughter's birthday, my youngest. And I decided we were going to go to the lake early in the morning before it gets too hot. And we could play around the lake. And then I should have enough time to make it back home to have my meeting with Alyssa. So I get the kids ready, we're packing for the lake, get ready to take the drive out. And as we were going out the house, I see 2 women walking down the street, which isn't unusual to see people walking down the street. But what is unusual is to see them kind of like in corporate gear, like blouses, skirts, everything like that. It was just, that's normally not what you see walking down the street. And I remember they had like clipboards in their hand. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And one of them waves to me like this, like really enthusiastically. And I remember my daughter was like, "Mom, who's that woman?" And I'm like, "I have no idea, but let's just get in the car. Let's just get in the car." Because people are friendly in the South, but they're not like that friendly. And she's like, I was like, "Hey, the car. This is what I'm telling my kids. So we get in the car, we reverse out, and I see them walking and stopping and stuff like that. You know, I didn't know if they were part of some type of religious organization or what, but I was just like, we are gone. You know, you know how like you're in a mall or something and you have those really aggressive people and they try, as soon as you make eye contact is over. That's what I was trying to avoid doing. I was trying to avoid making eye contact, but it was too late. So I just ran into the car and like left. Come back, get the kids, you know, got them their, got us our birthday dinner or lunch or whatever the case, and I'm waiting for my meeting. So again, knock on the door, and lo and behold, the woman that I'm having a meeting with was the one who was waving at me like crazy earlier that day. It was Alyssa. And I was like, oh, that was you. She was like, yes, that was me. It was like, she was like, it was me and someone from Lowe's. I think they're corporate people in terms of who's in charge of the grant rollout, whatever. They had come personally to take a look at where their money was going to. And she said they wanted to, she was like, they were there because they were going to select the house that they wanted to work on. So although they were giving money to the city, Lowe's was also going to be there on the ground with a crew of people. And during the 2 blocks, Lowe's was there trying to figure out which house they themselves wanted to work on for the grant project. And she said, you will love to hear the news I have for you. She says, you're walking out the house with your kids and everything like that. She said, your house caught her eye. And she said she doesn't know what it was about your house in particular, but she said she fell in love with your house. And then she saw your family and everything else leaving. And she decided that that was the house that Lowe's was going to work on. If you're a reader of the Bible, it's giving very much Esther vibes with like the divine connections and the timing of everything. I was like, you're kidding me, right? It's like, nope. Lowe's will work on your house. So I gave her the list of everything that needed to be done. Bushes, the porch, I had a broken window. That's a whole other story in itself. That's going to be a part 2. I had some gutters that needed repair, some pieces of siding, just everything. So I gave her the list and I was like, cool. Fast forward. It's going to be a lot of fast forwarding. Time skip. Time skip to maybe a week or 2 later. Or was it? Yeah, it must have been the week. Was it the week after that or the next day? I'm not sure. It was either the next day or the week after. I remember I had to go. I looked out my window and I see Alyssa and I see this big old fancy looking truck and I see this other lady in a Lowe's shirt, this time like a regular polo shirt. And they're standing across the street looking at my house. I was like, interesting. I wonder what they're talking about. I was like, let me go and pretend I got to bring in my trash can and see what I could find out. So I just throw on like some shorts and shirts, whatever. Go downstairs. Oh, let me go get my trash can. Go get my trash can. Oh, hey, Alyssa. And she was like, hey, Chanel. And I was like, how you doing? She was like, I'm good. We're just here talking about your house. I'm like, oh, are you? What are you talking about? So I go across the street. She introduces me to another contact from Lowe's. She's like, we were just here looking at your house. She said, this is amazing. And she was like, we're just deciding what it is that we would like to do with your house. I was like, where are you now? And I was like, well, what were you thinking about? She was like, we definitely have to get rid of these bushes. I was like, yes, you definitely have to get rid of the bushes. And she's like, well, what is it you want done? Because she was like, I'm thinking about putting some rocking chairs, getting that fixed, doing some landscaping here, repairing that. And I was like, She was like, but of course we want to get your input. She said, is there anything you want to do? And the only thing I could think of is like, I felt like I was in the middle of one of those DIY shows where you get like a home makeover. And I was just like, as you can see, I'm not that great with landscaping. Like, I like growing flowers and stuff like that. I just, when it comes to design and figure out what flowers go right with what and the whole design element and making everything flow, I was like, as you can clearly see, I have no idea what I'm doing. So if you have an idea and a plan, I'm just like, have at it. The only thing I ask is that you save my rose bushes. That's it. Anything else, feel free to rip up and start from scratch and plant something else. She's like, you giving us free reign? I'm giving you free reign, girl. I don't know what I'm doing. You're the professional. No, have at it. She said, that's all we needed to know. So we go in there and she's trying to figure out if she wants to give me a concrete porch or a wooden porch. I'm just like, I don't care. I just need a new porch. Like, whatever you want to do is cool with me. So, all right. So we were able to do that. Fast forward. I think that was the main thing. Okay, so that was in the summer. That was August. So now we're going into October. And all of a sudden, the things start happening. Like, literally, one day I wake up and all of a sudden there's crews out power washing everybody's house on a block. They power washed my house, the door, the side of the house. I didn't realize how dirty my house was. I probably should have said that on video. But anyway, my house looked completely different after a power washing. So yeah, that happened in like my walkways. And then like 2 days later, I wake up and they had crews out removing those moldy bushes. Yes. So then that was that. So it was a lot of stuff that was happening before the official event of the week of the 23rd. So the bushes got redone, and then the gravel, I got new gravel in my driveway because I had like a gravel driveway. So that was done. So then the day of the event, October 19th comes, and all of a sudden I see them all gathering outside my house, like 6 a.m. Everyone's gathering around and everything like that. The blue shirts show up, which was Lowe's. And I come out there and they get to work. They get to work. I get my porch. They start ripping up the porch, ripping up everything. They had a guy there who had like 20 something years of carpentry experience, and he knows how to make porches and build the fancy stuff and all that other stuff. So he's working on my porch. Then they had the crews start doing the landscaping. I had a lot of overgrown bushes and everything else like that. And they had an official gardener, everything. And then they had some extra time on their hand. And then I had my retaining wall was old and the pieces of it had crumbled. And they were like, you know what? We got time. Let's tear down this retaining wall and build a new one. So they tear down my old retaining wall. They build me a new one with like these beautiful pavers, like they're fancy ones. So they do that. And then they had originally prepared for me 2 rocking chairs, right? And this is where the enemy always tries to trip you up somehow, right? They had 2 rocking chairs prepared for me that they had someone making. And my neighbor saw the 2 rocking chairs and wanted one for herself. Now, granted, let me phrase this differently. She is an older lady and she's always sitting on her front porch, right? And she wanted a rocking chair. And she had asked me if I could ask them for a rocking chair. And I immediately felt a check from the Holy Spirit who said, don't ask. She's going to have to ask for herself. So I said, okay. So I was like, if you want a rocking chair, you're going to have to ask one of them to provide it for you, because I didn't tell her that the city wasn't buying the rocking chair. It was Lowe's who was providing it to me from their store. So she started asking a bunch of people, and then finally, the city, I guess, when some of the city reps were like, we're not responsible for furniture, we're just responsible for fixing the outer stuff, because they were painting their front porch, staining their deck, planting new trees. We're not responsible for the furniture. That's a Lowe's thing. So she grabbed one of the Lowe's people, and so what they did to appease her is they took one of my rocking chairs. They had two. They took one of my rocking chairs and gave it to her. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna be really transparent. I felt highly annoyed. I felt highly annoyed that what was destined for me was taken. But I felt the Holy Spirit talk to me one more time. He said, let it go, release it, and let her have it. I was like, okay. And I remember I had to say this out loud to myself. I was like, I release it, I will let it go. It will be a gift. It's all right. And so the Lowe's employee comes to me. She said, don't worry, we'll replace the rocking chair for you. I was like, all right, that's cool. But I was like, but here's my thing, right? I have 2 rocking chairs and 3 kids. I was like, it's going to be really tough to have 3 kids try to share 2 rocking chairs. I was like, is there any way possible I could have a total of 4 rocking chairs, 1 for myself and 1 for each of my kids? And she looks at me and I look at her, right? And she's like, well, it may not match because they're white and they may be a different color. I was like, I'm not too concerned about the color, which is fine. I don't care about the color. It's just I don't want my children fighting over rocking chairs. She said, we got you. We'll get you to three more chairs. It's like, yes. And I remember just thinking to myself, I was like, Lord, you are amazing. So I ended up getting a total of 4 rocking chairs for my front porch. But that's not the end of the story, right? So I don't know who I was telling. I was telling one of the volunteers that how this whole thing for me was coming together because of a prayer. And someone just happened to be walking by and overheard me telling this story of how God was literally answering my prayer. And she was like, hey, do you think you could tell that story to the man who nominated your neighborhood? Now, this is something that Alyssa had mentioned, that my neighborhood was nominated by a man. I have no idea who this person was, but this person nominated this thing. She said, so this lady in passing was like, do you think you could tell the story to the guy who nominated your neighborhood about how God answered your prayer? I was like, I'd be glad to. She's like, because he's heavily involved in a local church and he would love to hear this story. So I'm walking with, her name is Jenny. I'm walking with Jenny down the block, and on the way we pass Alyssa, and she's like, hey Alyssa, we're gonna go, I can't think of his name forever. I think it's Roth. It's not Roth. It's an unusual name that starts with an R, and I can't think of it for the life of me. I'm sure it'll come to me. She said, we're going to go talk to him about, you want to hear Chanel's story about how this was an answer to her prayer. Because I had never told Alyssa that this was an answer to prayer. She said, I would love to hear this story too. So we're walking down, we're looking for, it's not Russell, I think it's Roth. Anyway, we're looking for this guy. And she's like, oh, there he is. So we finally find him, make quick introductions. And she was like, can you tell him the story you were telling that other lady about how this was the answer to prayer? And then Alyssa's like, and if you don't mind, I would love to record this as well. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm relaying the story about how I was on my porch and I was asking God if there was a way he could get rid of the bushes and do the repairs that I needed from my porch to replace the porch. And he's like, that's amazing. Because he's like, when I nominated your neighborhood, there were so many other people that were nominating other neighborhoods, other blocks in the city. And he said, for some reason, mine got picked. And I was like, well, it sounds like maybe it wasn't all that accidental. His nomination got picked at the last minute, last second, his nomination. He just said he just felt the urge. And so this is the block that the Lord laid on his heart. And so he put it forward for the nominees. Now I had no idea this was going on in the city. And so we were just talking about how the Lord is faithful, how he provides, and how he answers prayers. And he's like, I know that. He's like, considering I'm like a transplant from Nebraska, he's like, I see how the Lord has come through all the time. I was like, well, I'm a transplant too. But I was thinking, a transplant from Nebraska? I know someone who's a transplant from Nebraska. And then I looked at his last name. He has a very unusual last name. And then it hit me. It felt like I felt like I was in the middle of a flashback. And I looked at him and I was like, do you have a wife named Dawn? And he was like, yeah, how do you know? And I burst into tears. And he was like, what's going on? I was like, I know your wife. I was like, I never met you. You don't know. I was like, I went over to your house one time for a swimming play date with your wife at the old place you used to live at. But I was like, I always run into your wife when I was in really low moments, just in random places. I could have run into her at the library or the grocery store, just random places. And I would always ask her if she'd be willing to pray for me. And there were times when she prayed for me, like in the middle of the library. She helped me out a couple of times. So, but I never actually met her husband. And it was just like, to see how there was an actual connection for something that seemed so, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, unplanned. There was a connection for something that seemed like it shouldn't have been connected. That the relationships that I built over my time of struggle and hardship and adversity are there during this time in this season of abundance, and how the Lord led one of his children to nominate this particular neighborhood to answer a prayer for another one of his children, and how the Lord just connects all of us together. And to see the connection played out for this family that moved over from Nebraska to here in this little town in Salisbury to help answer a prayer that I didn't even know I was going to pray. And to see God's faithfulness and for it to all hit. And it was all recorded at that time when the realization hit. And when we all understood at the same time, whoa, this is something amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, don't despise your season of struggle, because it doesn't last forever. And definitely don't let go of hope. Just like he was with you during those seasons of despair and hardship, and you learned what it meant to fellowship with him in the midst of suffering, he will give you into a season of abundance. And as you learn to walk with him, as he teaches you how to break generational curses and everything else like that, you will see the abundance of God and how it plays out. The work that was done on my house was in the thousands of dollars that I did not have the money for, but he did. He owns the cattle of 1,000 hills. All the silver and the gold belongs to him. And he saw fit to make a way where there was no way. So that is my testimony. Oh, and he did it for his glory, because on Saturday, because it was a 2-day event, the local media came and I did an interview. And I told them what I told you, that it was an answer to prayer. And that not only did my house get blessed, but for 2 blocks, the blessing of God, the abundance of God overflowed and affected my entire street. There were houses on my street that were in disrepair. There were houses on my street that needed work, and the Lord came in and blessed them as well. So it wasn't just for me. It was for everyone else around me, and it was for His glory. I was able to say in the local newspaper how God brought this to pass Himself. And so now I'm telling you, my friends, that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, according to the power that works inside of us. He is able to do it, and He has not forgotten you. And just like He did for me, He is not a respecter of persons. He will definitely be more than happy to show you His abundance as well. So I'm going to do my best to put pictures at the end of the video so you can see what happened for me, and I'll do my best to try to link to the newspaper article that talked about it as well. So, and until next time, may the Lord be with you, and may you be blessed, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great one.